After landing on the jagged Batangan Peninsula, the U.S. Marines inched closer than ever to wiping out the 1st Viet Cong regiment in an irrevocable stroke. The Marines had relentlessly pursued the rapidly retreating enemy since the white-hot climax of Operation Starlite. Now, at long last, the prey was cornered with no obvious route for escape. However, this seemingly straightforward task soon revealed its true, complex nature. Despite the smooth landing operation, the Marines stood on the precipice of a daunting labyrinth of subterranean caves, wherein the Viet Cong, ready to fight to their last breath, was ominously lurking. Descending into the eerie depths of the caves, the Marines stumbled upon a sprawling underground field hospital. As they combed the hospital grounds, they were met with a fierce salvo of enemy fire, echoing ominously from the pitch-black recesses of the caverns. In a desperate bid to decrease the carnage, the U.S. fighters raised their voices above the din of battle, imploring the enemy to lay down their arms. But the notion of surrender seemed an alien concept to the Viet Cong. If the Marines were to taste victory, they would have to wrench it from the cold depths of the cave system. The embers of conflict had been stoked for years as the U.S. guided the beleaguered South Vietnamese forces while providing an unseen hand of intelligence. Yet, their forces grew increasingly inadequate against the rising storm in the north. A decision point had arrived. The U.S. was to transform from a spectating coach to a direct participant in the theater of war, intensifying their military aid and advisory support while preparing to step onto the battleground themselves. Amidst this brewing turmoil, a deserter wandered into the North Vietnamese camp. Within the stark confines of his headquarters, General T became his interrogator. The deserter unraveled a chilling tale. The enemy regiment had nested in the Van Thuong village complex, a coastal settlement just 12 miles south of Chu Lai. Two battalions, the 60th and 80th, bolstered by the 52nd Company and a company from the 45th Weapons Battalion, were conspiring their attack on Chu Lai. A formidable force of approximately 1,500 men was being amassed for an assault. The response was unequivocal: seize the momentum, strike first. Thus, Operation Starlite was conceived, marking the first major offensive by the U.S. forces in the Vietnam War. This decisive, bloody conflict raged from August 18th to 24th, 1965. Operation Starlite was audacious. Marines blitzed the beaches while helicopters ferried troops into the very maw of the enemy, dropping them behind enemy lines. Artillery barrages rained down, opening pathways for infantry assaults. The Viet Cong's resistance was fierce, a testament to their resilience. The Marines eventually won the day, but the price of victory was steep. 54 American lives were lost, and over 200 soldiers were wounded. Viet Cong casualties were estimated to be far higher. Operation Starlite shattered the illusion of an easy victory over the Viet Cong, casting a long, dark shadow over the bloody conflict yet to unfold. The daring success of Operation Starlite revealed the potency of well-coordinated, large-scale offensives. Emboldened, U.S. military leadership sought to maintain this unyielding pressure on the enemy. As the dust from Starlite settled, Operation Piranha was birthed as a follow-up assault to eradicate the remnants of the Viet Cong 1st Regiment, who had managed to evade capture. As the scorching sun of early September 1965 hung overhead, the stage was set for Operation Piranha. The Batangan Peninsula, a stone's throw south from the battleground of Operation Starlite, awaited the impending storm. The lessons of Starlite were etched deep in their hearts as they prepped for another mission, lethal intentions burning in their eyes. The United States readied itself to dive back into the churning vortex of the Vietnam War. The battleground was treacherous. Since 1963, the Viet Cong had transformed the peninsula into an impenetrable stronghold. Reconnaissance photos revealed a V-shaped landscape of oil field fortifications, with the open end facing the sea. A second V was being constructed further inland to defend against the coming assault. The intricate plan of operation was set. A battalion landing team from the 1st Battalion 7th Marines would land on White Beach to the north and push south. Meanwhile, the 3rd Battalion 7th Marines would be airlifted by MAG-16, establishing blocking positions inland. The Army of the Republic of Vietnam would also have a role, with their 2nd Battalion and 3rd Vietnamese Marine Battalion airlifted south of the Marines' positions to clear and secure the An Key Peninsula. It would be a 4-day search-and-destroy mission, where the Marines and South Vietnamese forces were expected to corner close to 2,000 enemy units that had previously fled as a result of Starlite and other minor confrontations in the area. September 7, 1965, bore witness to the execution of a meticulously orchestrated dance of warfare. The launch of Operation Piranha held echoes of Operation Starlite, employing a combination of powerful amphibious landing and strategic movements behind enemy lines to halt any withdrawal attempts by the enemy. The symphony of war was precisely coordinated. The Marines of the 1st Battalion embarked upon their landing ships, their faces steeled with determination, while the 3rd Battalion's men took to the skies, crowding within helicopters. These airborne forces were destined for the very heart of the enemy's lair, the foreboding jungle, a manifestation of the U.S.'s vertical envelopment doctrine. As the dust whipped up by the helicopter blades settled, the men found themselves in the midst of Landing Zone Oak. This sliver of elevated land, straddling the twin throats of Batangan, was their new outpost. From this vantage point, they rapidly established a defensive wall, an immovable force meant to curtail any enemy escape once their brothers from the 1st Battalion commenced their advance from the beachhead. In swift succession, the fighters from the Republic of Vietnam were also whisked away from the familiar and dropped into a foreign battlefield. Landing zones Pine and Birch, nestled at the end of the Song Chao Meidong, became their new reality. By 9:45 a.m., the operation had reached a crescendo. They surrounded the enemy in a closing iron circle that left no room for escape. The grip of Operation Piranha had tightened around the Viet Cong. The initial phase of Operation Piranha was executed flawlessly. The troops had secured their positions in a tight knot around the enemy stronghold, poised to unravel any resistance the Viet Cong could muster. But an eerie calm reigned as the 1st Battalion made their landfall on the beaches. The anticipated defenses were conspicuously absent. No enemy soldiers were in sight. The silent landscape seemed deceptive, as sporadic gunfire, particularly from hidden sniper nests, punctuated their advance inland, transforming the mission into a test of endurance and will. As the dusk descended, the Marines dug in, fortifying their positions for the night. The few prisoners they had managed to apprehend from the limited skirmishes throughout the day were brought in. These captives, along with the neutralized enemy fighters encountered earlier, had been located near the entrances to various local caves. The Marines were faced with a daunting choice: wage a subterranean battle or blast the enemy out of their hideaways. Day 2 of Operation Piranha saw the Marines intensifying their assault on the cave entrances of the enemy's fortress. Their effort was buoyed by robust air support, swiftly decimating any attempt by the Viet Cong to mount a defensive counterstrike outside the caves. Within hours, they stumbled upon a hidden Viet Cong field hospital, secreted away in a cavern deep within the peninsula. But this initial ease of progress belied a more sinister challenge. A vast network of subterranean tunnels where the Viet Cong had sought sanctuary. As the Marines delved deeper, their exploration was met with a hail of bullets from the cavern's hidden corners. The Marines had the advantage, and the Viet Cong knew it. But surrender wasn't part of their lexicon. Amid the deafening symphony of battle, the Marines shouted to their adversaries, pleading for them to lay down their arms and end the campaign. Their calls fell on deaf ears. Victory, it seemed, was a prize to be wrestled from the very depths of the earth. The Marines managed to capture 4 prisoners, but soon found themselves under a shower of bullets from another Viet Cong holed up in the cave. Their only recourse was the explosives carried by Marine engineers. After the thunderous detonation, the aftermath revealed a devastating toll: 66 fallen Viet Cong. This was the single most lethal U.S. attack since their direct involvement in the Vietnam War began. The echoes of the explosion served as a grim reminder of the cost of this conflict. As the sun set on the 3rd day, the battlefield bore a stark change in landscape. The formidable Viet Cong positions had crumbled under the relentless assault of the Marines, their intricate cave sanctuaries no longer a refuge, but for many, a tomb. Those who had managed to escape from the onslaught were either captured or forced into a hasty retreat. The operation's brutal efficiency had brought an eerie silence to the once buzzing war zone. Operation Piranha drew to a close on September 10th. In the aftermath, the U.S. military reported that they had slain 198 Viet Cong fighters and taken 360 prisoners. The battleground had morphed into an American stronghold, the once insurgent-dominated regions of Batangan and An Kee peninsulas now under U.S. control. A tactical victory had been achieved at the cost of only 2 Marines and 5 South Vietnamese allies. However, the sweetness of the victory was tainted by a strategic failure. The operation had not met its primary objective. The 1st Viet Cong regiment remained elusive. Local villagers revealed that Viet Cong forces had indeed been in the area, but the majority had vanished 24 hours before Operation Piranha commenced. Later intelligence reports corroborated these claims. It was discovered that the 1st VC Regiment had begun evacuating the peninsula on September 4th, their retreat seemingly timed with the increased activity of amphibious ships at the Chu Lai base area. Operation Piranha, the second major U.S. offensive in Vietnam, was a paradoxical blend of success and disappointment. They had seized territory, decimated enemy ranks, and yet the elusive Viet Cong had managed to slip away, their tactics reflecting a keen understanding of their adversaries' strategies. This bitter realization of a won battle but a strategic failure would become an all-too-familiar theme for the Marines, a recurring narrative etched into the history of the Vietnam War.